I want to talk about life expectancy. So that life expectancy gap is 7 years between non-Māori and Māori, and that means that my koro dies 7 years earlier than my English koro, right?
Yep.
Do you guys have targets around that?
Yeah, obviously the target is we don't want there to be a discrepancy in life expectancy. It shouldn't be. Like, how is that a thing? It's a thing because we have all these other factors that we need to kind of try and get on top of.
Do you want to see that life expectancy gap change in the next 50 years, say 20 years, 10 years?
Oh gosh, I would want to see it, start to look better in the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
And I think it's achievable. If we all get around the table and accept that we have a responsibility here to look at the life and well-being of only 5 million odd people, then we should be able to affect that change fairly quickly. But you have to be really, really determined to look at the people who have this, who have the less life expectancy and decide to put initiatives in place without being afraid of what that's saying. All it's saying is that we want everybody to live good lives for as long as they possibly can.
So we say close that 7 year gap, say in 10 years?
Hopefully.
Hopefully?
Yeah.
Is that a target I can nail you down to?
I think we should drive toward initiatives that will make a difference to that gap.
How would you describe the health system at the moment for Māori?
I think it's a system that's failed Māori, and not just recently, over a really long period of time, and that's what that's what the system will look like when we haven't approached things in a way that delivers on those kind of key attributes of better equity across the system, better outcomes, being clear what those were, and of course better investment all around in those spaces. So I think it's not a system that has served us well, and that's not my personal opinion. That's like just pure straight core data that tells us that at the moment. Māori will do worse in just about every measurable domain in the health system. Pacifica as well, and of course people with disabilities, and then you can move into measurements like rurality. And what that means is that if you start to couple those things together, and you think about those Māori who might be living in a rural situation, who might have a disability, it starts to pile up the disadvantage, and the system won't work as well. So those are kind of the things that we have to unpick moving forward.
Andrew Little has stopped short of calling it a crisis, but for Māori, do you think it is a crisis?
Māori have a crisis in terms of the systems and the access, and even in terms of what will be we've got a lot of work to do, and it needs to be really focused, and it needs to have change that people can visibly see so that people understand that actually something is working. But it also has to be prepared for the fact that you don't always get it right on the first go. And so some things we're going to have to try and then, recorrect as we go along.
Is the current system racist?
I don't think there's a debate or a dispute about it. Institutionalised racism sits in almost every public service sector or any kind of entity, and that's a journey. That's a journey to unbundle that. So I know that people tend to get really bound up about the word racism and what it means, but I think what we have to acknowledge as a country is that I'm really practical in my approach. If I see a problem, I name what that problem is, and then I go about trying to find solution for it. The good news about when we acknowledge that racism exists within our system is that it's the things that we can go about doing to make us more collective in our approach, bring us together. Okay. Because fundamentally we're all human beings, and there are things that we have that are more similar than we would probably even care to acknowledge. But there are also things from that are ethnic things, cultural things, religious things that will make us slightly different in our approach to how we want to be treated from time to time. We're not saying people can't be GP practices or whatever else. We're just saying that probably the approach is a little bit different. And if we look to the Māori providers in our Pacifica whānau, we start to see evidence of how that system benefits not just our people, but all people, as opposed to a really generic system that only benefits usually one part of the population.
Who's that part of the population?
Well, non-Māori usually.
What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? I'm a grandmother of nearly 12 grandchildren, yeah. And I've been a mother of 3 of my own children and 4 whāngai who have come by my way. What keeps me up at night is knowing that we have to do better, faster. That we need an approach that's going to bring all the parties together on this. And as human beings, we don't often work collectively together. So what keeps me up at night is understanding how are we going to get this massive jigsaw puzzle and put it together. Because that's what it feels like some days. You know, I can see the 4 corners of the jigsaw puzzle. I'm sorting out the straight edges, and now I need to build into the middle. And you know, you don't want another person to suffer under the system as it is. That's not what we want. We want to change the system. But health is not a quick change. No. And as I keep saying, we have to be clear that transformation in this system is going to be really reliant on all those great partnerships and working together.